day, everyone. We are the Group 8 and we are about to talk the context and content about the speech of Corazon Aquino in the United States. Before we dig deep into the speech of Cory Aquino, we must know first who is she or who is Corazon Aquino. So who is Corazon Aquino? Corazon Maria Corazon Tumulong Cuanco Aquino, a loving mother of her children, the 11th president and the first female president of the Philippines. Born on January 25, 1933 in Paniqui, Tarlac, Philippines. Graduated from the College of Mount Saint Vincent in New York in 1953 with a bachelor degree in both French and mathematics. She is the widow of Senator Ninoy Aquino, or the oppositionists of the former President Ferdinand Marcos. She was widely accredited as the mother of ASEAN democracy. She restored the democratic after a long dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. Cory Aquino or Quanco Aquino functioned as the symbol of the restoration of democracy and overthrow of Marcos' dictatorship in 1986. The EDSA People Power, which installed Cory Aquino in the presidency, put the Philippines in the international spotlight of overthrowing dictator through peaceful meaning. Her father is Jose Cuanco, and also her mother is Demetria Sumolong, term February 25, 1986 to June 30, 1992, and died on August 1, 2009 at the age of 76. So that so that is the background of Corazon Aquino, or the first female president of the Philippines. The document outline of the historical background surrounding the political landscape of the Philippines during 1990s, particularly focusing on the time after the fall of authoritarian regime of President Ferdinand Marcos. So first, martial law declared on September 21, 1972, Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law in the Philippines, leading to a period of authoritarian rule that lasted for nearly 14 years. During this time, political opposition was suppressed and human rights abuse were ramped. So second, imprisoned and exiled. In 1980, Ninoy Aquino, a prominent oppositionist figure, was jailed for 8 years. His wife, Corazon Aquino, accompanied him during exile in United States. So the third one is presidential candidacy. In February 1986, Corazon Aquino decided to run for a presidency as the opposition candidate. She ran alongside Salvador Laurel as running mate for vice president. 4. People Power Revolution. The People Power Revolution took place on February 25, 1986, leading to the overthrow of Marcos and installation of Corazon Aquino as the president. This marks at the end of Marcos' regime and a return of democracy in the Philippines. So speech of U.S. Congress in September 1986, just 7 months after the end of martial law and her election as president. Corazon Aquino visited the United States. She delivered a speech in joint session of the U.S. Congress written by Teddy Locsin Jr., in which she sought support to address Philippine challenges, including a foreign debt of $26 billion and communist insurgency. So, impact of the speech of Corazon Aquino's speech aimed to garner support for the Philippines from United States, particularly in the terms of financial aid. Her efforts helped influence the U.S. Congress to approve $20 million in financial aid to help rebuild the Philippines economy. So the speech is notable for its timing and context, coming just months after EDSA revolution, which outside Marcos and marked a significant turning point of the Philippine history. It was delivered during the time when the country was transitioning back to democracy and facing numerous challenges related to rebuilding its economy and addressing insurgent issues.
Understanding the historical information, references, and identify describe the content of dramatic source. Content analysis. She acknowledged the speaker, Senator Thurmond, and the distinguished member of Congress. She reiterated her grief when she left America to bury her husband 3 years before her presidency. She said that she had to return as a president of free people. She detailed about her husband's struggles, how it affected their family, and its impact on the nation. She talked the first time she lost her husband 40 years ago after Marcos implemented a martial law that suspended the Constitution and shut down the Congress, and how Marcos detained Benigno and thousands of others who had spoken for democracy. Corazon also elaborated how painful it was for her and her children to permanently lose the foundation of their home, her husband and the father of her children. However, Ninoy Aquino's death was the Philippines' resurrection and the courage and faith by which alone its people could be free again. She quoted Archibald MacLeish, who had said that democracy must be defended by arms when it's attacked by arms, and it's with the truth when it's attacked by lies. After which she spoken how he felt to say how it shall be won. Still we fight. After which he spoken how he felt to say how it shall be won. Still we fought for honor, and if only for honor, we shall pay. They restarted was not wasted, and it was not nonsense. That one day the Filipinos put a good fight against the administration. Moreover, that she included in her speech the happenings during the presidential election on 1986, how the Filipinos united to go against the Marcos regime that had burdened them for more than 1 decade. It was a declaration to the country and its people finally gained freedom. The task had fallen on my shoulder to continue offering the democratic alternative to our people. She took the responsibilities and taking care and fighting the sake for the freedom of the whole country. However, shortly after being victorious, the dictatorship of Marcos, the Philippines was still reckoning with everything his administration had inflicted, that includes $26 billion in total foreign debt and communist insurgency that grow throughout the Marcos area from 500 armed guerrillas to 16,000. The country was just at the start of long road. Her speech also lodged on an appealing for help or for financial assistance in restoring for full constitutional government and for recovering the economy of the country.
What are the factors that could have influenced the author in the writing of document? The speech of Corazon Aquino was influenced by the situation of the country after the Marcos administration. The country was left in oppressed situation for decade over more than 1 decade. This caused the Filipino citizens to be left and be burdened with the debt committed by Marcos during his regime, which they did not receive any benefit from. So Corazon Aquino's speech was undoubtedly shaped by the challenging circumstances she inherited after the Marcos administration. The Philippines had endured over a decade of oppression and economic mismanagement under the under Marcos, leaving the citizens burdened with the debt incurred without receiving any tangible benefits. So Aquino likely addressed these issues in her speech, aiming to rally the nation towards recovery and progress while acknowledging the hardship faced by the Filipino people. After martial laws was only starting to settle, but the Philippines was reckoning with everything Marcos administration had inflicted. That included $26 billion in total foreign debt and communist insurgency that grew throughout the Marcos era from 500 armed guerrillas to 16,000. So the turbulent aftermath of martial law in the Philippines, The dust settling signifies the initial phase of stabilization after the Celtic period, suggesting that the country was beginning to find its footing again. However, the nation was still grappling with the far-reaching consequences of the Marcos administration's actions. The staggering $26 billion foreign debt burden highlights the economic challenge inherited by the post-Marcos government, which would have a significant impact on the country's development and resources. Additionally, the surge in communist insurgency from 500 armed guerrillas to 16,000 during Marcos' era underscores the deep-seated social and political issues that persisted and even intensified under his rule. So, overall, the praise illustrates the complex and daunting task ahead for the Philippines as it sought to rebuild and address the multifaceted legacy of the Marcos regime. Question. So, what is the relevance contribution of the document in our country to restore the democracy of the Philippine history? So, Marcos Government Outlaw, this document allows the Filipino people to know and to not forget the harsh reality during the dictatorship of Marcos. Lastly, since Corazon Aquino was the first female president of the country, her speech had a strong impact not just in the country, but also on the world's perception of woman in power.
The contextual analysis of late President Corazon Aquino's speech during the joint session of the U.S. Congress in September 1986 occurred in the wake of the People Power Revolution in the Philippines, which ousted the authoritarian regime of Ferdinand Marcos and installed Aquino as the country's president. In this context, her speech aimed to strengthen ties between the Philippines and the United States, emphasize the importance of democracy, and seek support for her administration's efforts to rebuild the nation after years of dictatorship. Aquino likely tailored her speech to appeal to American lawmakers and the public, highlighting shared values such as freedom, human rights, and democracy, while also addressing specific issues relevant to the bilateral relationship between the two countries. So what are the main author's arguments? In Corazon Aquino's speech to the joint session of the U.S. Congress, her main arguments likely revolve around the several key points. First is the gratitude. The overall observation of Corazon Aquino's speech to the joint session of the U.S. Congress was a pivotal moment in Philippine history and the relationship between the Philippines and the United States. Here are some overall observations. First, historical context. The speech occurred in the aftermath of the People Power Revolution, which ousted the authoritarian regime of Ferdinand Marcos and brought Aquino to power. This context shaped the tone and content of her address, emphasizing the transition to democracy and the need for support from the international community. The second is diplomatic objectives. Aquino likely aimed to strengthen ties between the Philippines and the United States, both politically and economically. Her speech would have sought to reassure American lawmakers of her commitment to democratic values while also appealing for assistance in rebuilding the country. The third is the symbolic significance. Addressing a joint session of the U.S. Congress symbolized the importance of the relationship between the two countries. Aquino's speech would have been carefully crafted to make a positive impression on American lawmakers and the public, highlighting shared values and interests. And the fourth one is the gratitude and hope. Aquino likely expressed gratitude for the support of the United States during the People Power Revolution and conveyed hope for a brighter future for the Philippines under democratic governance. Her speech would have aimed to inspire confidence in her leadership and in the democratic process. Last one is the international impact. The speech would have been closely watched not only in the United States and the Philippines, but also in the countries around the world. Aquino's address would have served as a signal of the Philippines' commitment to democracy and its desire for closer ties with the international community. Overall, Corazon Aquino's speech to the joint session of the U.S. Congress was a significant moment in the Philippine history, marking the country's transition to democracy and its effort to rebuild after years of dictatorship.